Not be more excited. The last time this show aired was March 3rd. That's about 6.5 months ago, but let me tell you, it feels a lot longer than that. While Quinnipiac has been able to bring students back to campus, sports did not make the cut. There's no doubt that everyone here wants to protect the Bobcat bubble, but it's truly just a different story without athletics. All of the conferences that the fall sports compete in were canceled. This includes the MAAC, the Big East, and the NIRA. However, there is exciting news for the basketball teams, but you'll have to stick around to hear more about that. So now that we're back up to speed, almost like we never left, we're ready to debate. I'm your host, Katie O'Keefe, and this is Bobcat Breakdown. Thanks everyone for joining us tonight. On the desk, we have Tom Krosnowski and Jonathan Banks. We love an entertaining show, so Tom, do I even have to ask who will win the debate tonight?
No, Katie, you really don't have to ask. It's going to be the same person who won the first two times, and we all know who that is.
Well, that's interesting because you were actually the judge of those other two times, so you're saying that you won those debates yourself. But I got to tell you, Ryan and Jack texted me. Those are our producers, by the way. When they texted, they said, thanks, let's give you a softball matchup to start it off.
Is that right?
You are said softball matchup.
Well, I know who to talk to after the show then.
After you lose.
Oh, we'll see about that.
We'll see if it's all talk. All right, so let's get into it. Last Thursday, MAAC Hoops announced a schedule designed to safely bring back college basketball this winter. The model is the first of its kind, and the upcoming season will have 20 regular season games. Every school playing each opponent, both home and away. The season will start the week of September 7th. Men's teams will play on Tuesdays and Fridays. The women will play on Wednesdays and Saturdays. There will be no fans, though, through December 23rd. After that, the MAAC Council will meet again and decide if that can change, based on local and state regulations, of course. It seems like the MAAC has this figured out, but Jonathan, what are your thoughts on the schedule?
Yeah, Katie, you outlined all of it there. But first of all, credit to the MAAC because, I mean, Tom, I know you know this too. They're the only conference in Division I college basketball that was transparent and they were productive and they were proactive throughout the pandemic to get a schedule down. They're still the only conference in the country that's gotten it done. I think the schedule makes total sense. Katie outlined the days that everyone has to play, and you can see it on your screen up there. This designated time allows sanitation workers and schools to get ahead, clean out the gyms, make everything as safe as possible, so that's a plus. But for me, this helps because the MAAC is not like a Power 5 school where there are athletes from different parts of the country, teams from different parts of the country. Everyone in the MAAC is in the New England region or the tri-state area. So what they're able to do there is play within this confined bubble. Yes, it's not a bubble or the wubble like we've seen in professional sports, but teams don't have to travel all over. They can go from their bus to the court, back to the bus. So I think it's really a win-win situation, and the plan is absolutely feasible.
Yeah, the fact that non-conference play is really minimized is a good thing, because now if there's a positive test in some other conference like the Big East, you don't have to worry about it in the MAAC, because there's been very little contact, if at all. Just from a basketball perspective, it's great for conference play, because conference play is where all the fun is. And it's going to make all the standings even more wonky. There's going to be guys going up and down and teams going up and down the standing. That's going to be great. The games are going to be high intensity, because there's less room for error. That's going to be great. And you mentioned the MAAC was the first conference to come out with this model. They're also one of the last to officially cancel its season back at the time. So, you know, they figured it out this time. They got it together, and credit to Rich Enzer and the schools for figuring that out. Fans may be coming back around December. We'll see. They said it's going to be based on the guidelines. I have to think right now, nobody from outside the school should be coming. It only takes one positive test. It wouldn't be a good idea to allow outside fans, but there could be a chance to have some students maybe from the school because, you know, you've seen that Quinnipiac students can adhere to the guidelines. The tests are very low. It's almost no different sitting in the stands and sitting as far as we are here right now with masks on and following all the guidelines. But if everyone keeps to it, there's a chance you could see some fans of students from the school.
Here's my thing with that, though, and I agree. It is the discretion of the university at the end of the day whether or not they feel it's safe. But I want to know what you think about this hypothetical. We've seen it in the bubble and the wubble that players in basketball are able to sit like a normal bench space because they're in that bubble. But when you look at it and you look at Major League Baseball and you look at European soccer, for example, the substitutes are all spread out with the fans, and they're sitting in the fan seats. So that's something that the MAAC is going to have to figure out because you might not be able to have fans if the whole lower bowl is filled out with the players.
Yeah, that's another thing to consider for sure. I mean, baseball, like you mentioned, they have not been doing such a good job. But some of the other sports certainly have been.
Those are great points. And Quinnipiac might be a small school in Little Connecticut, but the hockey team preps many of its players for the pros. Connor Clifton playing for the Boston Bruins, Devon Taves skating with the Islanders. As more players make it to the NHL, do you think there will be a direct link to success from the college level? Tom, what do you think?
Well, you see, Katie, I think we've kind of already had this discussion when the first couple guys made it into the pros. So I think Quinnipiac's recruiting pitch is already well known. They're one of the most successful teams in college hockey over the last 10 years, 2 Frozen Four appearances, 2 finals appearances. They have no problem recruiting talent. They got a kid, if you don't know his name, Ty Smolonic. He's probably going to get drafted in the first or second round this year, so they got no problem with recruitment. The bigger impact of this, I think, is for the NHL level, because, you know, sometimes to get a job, all it takes is a good recommendation from somebody who gets it and they're in good standing. The NHL has that now with the Bobcats. They have employees in good standing who can vouch for these guys. You know, when you see Clifton and you see Taves in the conference finals and getting long-term contracts, that reflects well in the program. That will make it easier for guys like Chase Prisky, Carlos Chuksta, Odin Tufto to break in. I mean, it just takes one to break the door down. There's been a couple before, but these guys are regulars now. It'll make it easier for the future Bobcats.
I think that obviously that's right, and you can't possibly have an argument where it's bad for the conferences because, I mean, if Devon Taves is playing well, it's a good look on Quinnipiac. You think it's bad for UMass that Cale McCarr won Rookie of the Year, won the Calder Trophy?
It was bad that he was bad against Quinnipiac 2 years ago.
That's a different discussion, although he was good in the second game of that set. But my thing here, this is how I took the question, because there's obviously been momentum from college hockey. College hockey's been an important development station. I talked to a scout for the Vegas Golden Knights 2 years ago here at Quinnipiac, and he told me that there's more of an emphasis to let players develop in college hockey. Will the pandemic halt the momentum college hockey has brought? That's to be determined, because you see players like William Falstrom leaving, talented players leaving, but I don't know if the momentum will be there. College hockey and recruitment and a direct link to success, that's here to stay.
Now, I mentioned this earlier. We know that there are no fall sports. However, there is college football, the Big Ten, SEC, ACC, and many others. Jonathan, do you think the MAAC made the right choice to not play fall sports?
Katie, it's a tough call because you look at what everyone across the country is doing. I think the virus dictates it, but I'm going to have to say yes, I think it was the right call. I'm going to get to this a little bit in the final roar where I kind of realized throughout quarantine that sports aren't everything, but it comes down to this for me. Could it have been pulled off? You know, theoretically, it probably could have been pulled off. You could keep symptoms in check. You could do that. But think about it from a Quinnipiac perspective. Every day we come onto campus, we have to use the symptom checker app. And one of the questions on that app is, hey, have you been out of state for the last 14 days? If a Quinnipiac team has to travel out of state to play, then does that mean the athletes can't go to practice or attend class for 2 weeks because they went to New York to play Niagara? It's an interesting question. And yes, it's just a Quinnipiac perspective here. But in general, yes, it could have been pulled off, but you gotta let the virus dictate the situation, and I think this is what makes it safest for everyone. It's terrible we don't have fall sports. It's obviously sad and it's unfortunate, but for the greater good, I think it made sense at the end.
I like what you said, let the virus dictate, because there was just not enough evidence on July 27th when this decision came in. 3 things had to happen, I think, as I see it here. Their own students at each school had to be able to follow the protocol, right, in addition to student athletes, everyone on campus. All 12, or in this MAAC's case, 11 schools, had to be able to follow these protocols. And the states that these schools are in, New Jersey, New York, Connecticut, you didn't want to see any spikes on the curve. You want to make sure the curve was flattened. And we got all those things. When you see in the SEC, Alabama and Georgia have 5,000 cases alone. The MAAC schools, per the New York Times, only have 50 for the entire conference. That's 100 times less. So when you're looking at it that way, the MAAC can certainly maybe have fall sports again come back in the spring, but there was just not enough body of work to make sure that could have happened in the fall.
I agree with that, Tom. I think you made great points there. We're going to send it back to Katie, though.
You're right. There's a lot of uncertainty. And to note, Quinnipiac only has recorded 1 positive case, so we're doing pretty well so far. But we're going to toss it to the break real quick, and when we come back, I'll ask the guys what was lost when the virus first broke out. Can they say if there was a team to lose the most? Find out after this.
1 in 3 adults has pre-diabetes. 1 in 3. That means it could be you, your favorite brother, your other brother, you, your football buddy, your football buddy, you, the boss's boss. If 1 in 3 adults has pre-diabetes, that means it could be you, your barber, your barber's barber.
Nice work.
Thanks.
You, your plumber,
Breathe right into your foot.
your plumber's masseuse.
Yes.
You, your dog walker,
On your left.
your cat jogger. Or you, your co-pilot, your co-pilot's co-pilot. While 1 in 3 adults has prediabetes, with early diagnosis, prediabetes can be reversed. Take the risk test at doihaveprediabetes.org to know where you stand.
Thanks for sticking with us. So I'm going to bring us back to March when everything changed. And thinking from a sports perspective, Jonathan, if you had to pick, what team had the most to lose? This can be any fall or spring sport. What do you say?
If I had to choose between any fall or spring sport, it's hard to pick because they've all been affected in a specific way, but I'm going to go with the baseball team. This is a team that won a program record 30 games, MAAC regular season champions, tournament champions. They went to the NCAA tournament, and they beat number 10 East Carolina in that opening game. They became a name in college baseball, and they were a great Cinderella story. But why did they have the most to lose? Because they couldn't build off the best season they have ever had in school history. When you look at it like that, this is a team that had all the momentum in the world going into next season. They were still going to have Andre Marrero, Evan Volgamore, list all of their best players to come back, or most of their best players. It was a great opportunity for them to build on their success. So I don't see how there's a different answer for which team had the most to lose.
Now, baseball absolutely deserved the chance to defend your MAAC title. When you win a conference championship, you deserve
If you
the
win
chance
anything,
to
if
defend
you
it.
win fantasy football, you get to deserve to defend
Now,
it.
here's the thing, they're going to get that chance.
They will.
I spoke with Colin Donnelly over quarantine. He told me that he thinks 8 out of 11 players, and that was over quarantine, it could be higher now, are going to come back. So they're going to get that chance with that core and any new recruits. So that's why they didn't have the most to lose, as I interpreted this question. It has to be the team that lost the most, and that was men's basketball. Men's basketball lost its 2 best players after quarantine. That was the most talented team I think Baker Dunleavy ever had. And now his 2 best players are gone. That was their last dance, and they didn't even know it. Unlike MJ and Pippen, they didn't even get the chance to try and run it back one more time. You know, stars win games in basketball, and a MAAC Player of the Year nominee and the nation's leading rebounder are now gone. They transferred, and chances are they probably would have done that regardless, but they didn't even get the chance to go into the playoffs. And now Quinnipiac, they still have a good team, but they're missing their 2 big stars. They lost the most, so that meant they had the most to lose.
That is correct. I think the basketball and the baseball team on the men's side are the 2 right answers. But Katie, I just want to get your clarification on this. Did you say fall and spring sport?
I did, but Tom, you found a way around it. So Jonathan, what do you say?
Interesting. Just making sure that everyone knows that fall and spring sport. Tom goes with a great answer, but it was a winner.
Had we gotten the next question, there would have been something there to pick on too.
All right.
Good argument, Tom. But it's time to end the show with our signature final roars. And Jonathan, you're up first.
When I was born in 1999, the first thing I laid eyes on at my house was a meaningless Phillies game at Veterans Stadium. It's a funny story, but that foreshadowed the path I would take in life. Playing sports, watching sports, and now ready to work in sports. These last few months showed me something I was privileged to not fully grasp before. Sports don't matter to me as much as I thought they did. Lives being taken during a pandemic, the fight for social justice and equality, that matters way more than a winning box score. And I knew that before. I really did know it. I knew it. But it never sunk in until I was seeing what was happening across the world, and specifically our country in these last few months. Sports will always be a huge part of my life. I am and will always be a passionate Philadelphia sports fan. But if the Eagles don't win on Sunday, or if my favorite soccer team, Arsenal, doesn't make it back to the Champions League, it's all good. I wish we weren't in a global pandemic, and I wish everyone was treated equally in the first place, but I'm relieved to say I can now see the bigger picture. At times, it seemed unlikely that we'd be back here in the media suite in this way, doing
Bobcat Breakdown and talking about Quinnipiac sports. But we're here, sports are on the horizon, and it's more important now than ever to cherish every second. When we're in the media suite until 12:30 in the morning for an entire weekend, it is tough sometimes. But man, what I would have given just to be able to do that just once over the last 6 months. Now we have the chance to do it. So let's not take it for granted. This time is going to go by like that. And this is as exciting a time as ever to be a journalist and storyteller. So, as thrilled as athletes are to get back on the field, I can say the excitement from the student media covering them is just as high.
As the sports world begins to resume a somewhat normal lifestyle, fans are more happy than they should be jealous. It was a little rocky when the MLB started out, but leagues like the NHL have done very well. Another league doing very well, though, is the WNBA. You might not watch it as much, but maybe this will give you a reason to. Connecticut's very own, the Connecticut Sun, is making a run in the playoffs. Despite their 7th seed ranking, the team beat the top seed on Sunday night by 25 points, and they're actually playing a second game right now. It'll be the best of 5 games, and covering it is all by one of Q30's own, Robin Brown. Robin completed her graduate degree here at QU in 2019, where many of us got to know her very well. Before coming to Connecticut, Robin played college hoops at the University of Mount Union in Ohio. And then, soon after graduation, she accepted her dream job as a team reporter and marketing specialist for the CT Sun. So be sure to check out their Twitter page. Long story short, it's not about the sports, it's about the people. And Robin reminds us of that. That's all we have for tonight. Be sure to catch the next show, same time, same place, as we always say. And you can watch on our website at q30tv.com or through the app. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for our behind-the-scenes crew for making this show happen. And like Tom said, remember to be grateful for what you have right now. Have a good night.